Welcome back to Cherish Ephesians 6:4 and our reading of Christian Behavior by John Bunyan in Modern Updated English. Chapter 8 is for neighbors. So, I've briefly explained your roles and responsibilities in various relationships. Now I'll touch on the topic of being a good neighbor before wrapping things up. Regarding the topic of being a good neighbor, there are certain things you need to consider and practice if you want to truly embody the essence of good neighborliness. Firstly, you need to maintain a good and healthy conversation with your own family, place, and situation. Show everyone the power of the gospel and the things of another world that live in your heart. This way, you can be blameless and harmless, the children of God, without any fault in the midst of a twisted and corrupt society. Among these people, you shine as lights in the world, as stated in Philippians 2:15-16. Secondly, just as people need to behave well at home to be good neighbors, they also need to be full of courtesy and kindness towards those around them, as mentioned in Luke 10:36-37. Good neighbors is about being willing to share, not just in terms of spiritual matters, but also in terms of material things like food, clothing, and assistance to those in need. It's about giving to the poor when you see them, or taking the time to understand their situation and then, according to your ability, providing for them. Thirdly, you should always be humble and gentle with them as well as gracious. Don't be frivolous or superficial. Through your words and actions, you should bring grace to those who listen, as stated in Ephesians 4:29. So, just like Job, he showed respect for God among his neighbors, as mentioned in Job 30:6-11. Fourthly, your wisdom should guide you to discourage sin and to reprimand your neighbor for the same, as stated in Leviticus 1:17. This might mean denying yourself some things to prevent causing harm to your neighbor, all in an effort to please him for his betterment, as suggested in Romans 15:2. Fifth, if you want to be a good neighbor, be careful with your words for two reasons. 1. Make sure you don't use it to offend your neighbor or provoke them to anger. Be patient, forgiving wrongs, and don't say much. It's a sign of honor for a person to avoid conflict. However, some people just can't help but meddle, as stated in Proverbs 23. Also, according to Proverbs 17:19, those who love conflict are actually in love with transgression. Just as you should be careful not to be the source of conflict or anger, you should also avoid being the one who stirs it up among others by spreading rumors and gossip. It's like someone who gets involved in things that don't concern them. They're just asking for trouble, like grabbing a dog by the ears. Just as coals are to burning coals, and wood is to fire, a contentious person is there to ignite strife, as stated in Proverbs 26:17. I've noticed two very unpleasant traits in many scholars. The first is a stubborn spirit that insists on having its own way. The second is a lot of chatter about religion, but very little, if any, action on those Christian deeds that embody the struggle of a Christian and bring benefit to my neighbors. When I talk about a stubborn and unyielding spirit, I'm referring to those who insist on pleasing themselves and indulging in their own whims in matters of little importance, even if their actions deeply wound the sensitive conscience of a brother or neighbor. This is not right. A Christian, in all such matters that do not infringe on the matters of faith and worship, should be full of self-denial and aim to please others rather than themselves. They should avoid offending both Jews and Greeks, as well as the Church of God. They should not seek their own benefit, but the benefit of many, so that they may be saved, as stated in 1 Corinthians 10:32-33. Another issue is just as bad. Namely, some religious scholars are like great talkers, debaters, and disputers, but they don't do much to show love to the poor or self-denial in material things. Some people mistakenly think religion is all about words. This couldn't be further from the truth. Religion without action is incomplete. True religion, pure and uncorrupted in the eyes of God, is about helping orphans and widows in their time of need and keeping oneself pure from the world's corruption, as stated in James 1:27. Moreover, if a brother or sister lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, stay warm, and eat well," which are nice words to say, but you don't provide them with the necessities for their physical needs, what good does it do? This is mentioned in James 2:15-16. All right, before I delve deeper, I want to take a moment to discuss some sins that are quite common among many believers today. These sins are covetousness, pride, and uncleanness. I feel it's important to address them here because they are the very things that ruin both Christian brotherhood and good neighborly relations to a great extent. We will end here, and we'll see you in chapter 9. Thank you for listening.